what's up you guys? My name is Emily, also known as Parakeet Pals here on YouTube, and even more commonly known as Fish Taco on Instagram and TikTok. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit more of a controversial topic. I really haven't heard this being discussed widespread. I just checked. I am the first person to make a YouTube video specifically about this. There's not a lot of information online about this. I have only really seen it being discussed on a couple of forums. There's a couple websites that talk about it. I've talked to other people with English budgies about it. And quite a few people, myself included, have found that English budgies are really inhumane to breed. And I have just noticed the quality of life in my English budgies is just not as good as the quality of life that Australian budgies have. Start by talking about what English budgies are and why they were created. So these aren't naturally occurring, you do have to breed for them. So they are considered a breed of budgie. Budgies were initially brought to England in 1840 and they were bred to be show pets. They were bred to be larger in size. The most desirable traits in these birds was to be different colors and to have a large head. And while they were being bred to be like this, their well-being and genetic health was not considered. And they still have bad genetics today, so they are very inbred, and many people don't know of or consider how inbred these birds actually are. And it gets in the way of their day-to-day life and essentially renders them disabled. So I brought home my first English budgie 2.5 years ago, Bluebell, and I knew something was wrong with her pretty much right away. I thought that she was sick, so I contacted the person I got her from. I was like, this bird is sick, something's wrong. And she was like, oh no, she's completely healthy. And that's not enough for me, so I took her to the vet, and the vets were like, no, she's completely healthy. So they agreed with the breeder, and I was just so freaking confused because she had so many markers for a sick bird when the vets couldn't find her with anything. So I brought her home very confused. I remember being so worried that I would come home from school and find her dead on the bottom of the cage. That's like the extent of it. I was just so worried that she would die, and I get very attached to my birds very quickly. So I took her to the vet again, and once again they said that she was healthy. I just had to live with the frustration of, having a bird that I thought was sick. And no one believing me, because I did go to 2 separate vets. I got a second opinion, all of that, and she didn't have any sort of illness. She was just really messed up. English budgies live considerably shorter lives compared to their Australian budgie counterparts. So English budgies only live to be 4, 5, maybe 8. It really depends on their individual genetics and the individual bird, where a Australian budgie will live to be 10 to 15 years old depending on the bird, and that really tells you a lot about the genetics of these birds, just looking at the lifespan. English budgies suck at breathing. They have really inadequate respiratory systems, and it really affects their quality of life. Your quality of life would be a lot lower if you felt like you were breathing out of a straw the whole time. English budgies often can't fly, and this can be a major contributor to them getting a respiratory infection. In order to fully empty the lungs in a bird, they do have to be flying. Having your bird flighted can be critical for their respiratory health, and a lot of English budgies just don't get that. My English budgie, Felipe, can fly, but Bluebell actually can't. English budgies can get a respiratory infection literally from just preening themselves. So when they're preening themselves, they're getting dust in their nares, and possibly they breathe it in, gets into their lungs, and they can't get enough air exchange to efficiently push that out, and there can be a buildup which can cause a respiratory infection. I just think it's crazy that just doing their normal day-to-day life stuff that's healthy for them, like preening, can make them sick. Even when they don't have a respiratory infection, they're still struggling to breathe. They have a tail bob when just resting. It's not even a matter of them exercising and sort of being out of breath. Even if they're just sitting there like falling asleep, they're gonna be like heavy breathing, just in their normal breathing. Tail bobbing is when a bird's tail is, you know, sort of moving up and down. And it's usually a symptom of the bird having some sort of respiratory distress, but that's just the resting breathing for English budgies, and it makes me so sad. English budgies are just prone to health issues in general because their immune systems are just insufficient compared to their Australian budgie counterparts, who are usually pretty efficient at fighting things off, but because of their poor genetics, their immune system is just suppressed. Some English budgies show budgies, and most helicopter budgies literally can't see because of the feathers in their face blocking their eyes. I personally have to give Bluebell little itty bitty bird haircuts just so she can see the world around her. But most people don't do this. Like, people who are using their birds for show don't want to do this for their birds because that would get rid of the fluffiness that the birds have, and they would be less likely to win a show because of that. And then most people just don't want to do it either because it's inconvenient, they're worried that they're going to stab their bird in the eye, or they just think it's cute that the birds are haha fluffy when the bird literally can't see. English budgies usually have longer scales in the middle of their feet that damage easily, so they're really prone to have sores on their feet just from normal wear and tear. This has nothing to do with having dowels or not, or having spaces to rest their feet. This is my English budgie's feet. She has so many places to rest, and this is just from her walking around and minding her own business. There's no reason they should look like this, but they do, and it's because of these long scales in the middle of the feet. And I can imagine it is so uncomfortable to have that pain just from walking around. So I do put coconut oil on it, but it really doesn't heal that much. I'm sure it provides some relief, but it does make me very sad to see this. And that's just how her feet naturally are, and it must be so uncomfortable. English budgies often have neurological issues which can cause poor balance. My English budgie Bluebell she just has enough neurological issues that I could pick up on by looking at her. I was actually hesitant to leave this in the video until I started talking to Galen about English budgies and his experiences, but he agrees. They definitely have neurological issues. His bird Jim used to dig in the coconut husk substrate that he had on the floor in his budgie room, so much so that he would damage his eye on the one side. He would look for the food for hours and hours, even though it wasn't there. And he did not feel the pain that he was causing himself naturally. His face would become swollen, and this bird just could not pick up on that. I will be leaving a donation link below to Galen's rescue, Rio's Roost. It's an amazing rescue. You would be helping out so much with things such as feeding them and enrichment and just veterinary expenses and all of the expenses that come with helping out all of these birds. So the link will be down below if you guys want to go donate and help out. English budgies often can't fly or have trouble with flying. I'm personally against clipping for a bunch of different reasons. I truly believe that birds should be allowed to fly. I will get to that in a later video though, because I have a lot to say about that and it would be a lot to cram into this one video. English budgies run out of air too quickly and will often fall to the ground mid-flight because they can't breathe fast enough to keep up with the amount of air needed for flight. I totally don't think this means they should be clipped though by any means, because that'll cause them to fall even more, because clipping causes balance issues in a ton of birds. And that, combined with their messed up proportions and neurological problems, is a perfect recipe for a budgie that will fall often and potentially harm themselves. Because flying makes them run out of air quickly, they often avoid it even if they can't fly, which can lead to issues related to confidence and mental health. And over time, this can cause obesity because they are not exercising a sufficient amount. This can also cause muscle atrophy and cause them to not be capable of flight, period. They're also just too heavy for their wings, and their body is too large for their wings, making flight very difficult, coupled with their issues with breathing. English Budgies often have mental health issues. So they're lethargic and lower energy, and because they can't really breathe well too, and because of their poor balance that they often have, they really can't do much on top of this lethargy that they naturally have. They're pretty much disabled, they're prone to depression because of this, and sometimes they need to be put on antidepressants significantly more than Australian Budgies do. Even in great care, they can need to be medicated for this. On the topic of English Budgies and mental health issues, I'd like to bring up that English Budgies are significantly more likely to die of panic than compared to Australian Budgies. If you spook them just a tiny little bit, their heart rate can go up so high and they start hyperventilating very hard. Their heart can just stop from panic. This can happen with Australian Budgies as well, but English Budgies are significantly more likely to die from this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that this can help the next English Budgie owner who is just as confused as I was, or better yet, prevent someone from going out and buying an English Budgie entirely, because the best way to stop these birds from being bred is to not buy them, because breeders won't produce them anymore. Comment down below what health issues you've had with your English Budgies. We need to spread awareness of this issue. It is not cute, it is disabling them, and it's really depressing. If you guys could like and subscribe, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye-bye.